Your volume too low.
Hi, good morning, everyone. There's still people trying to get in, so we'll probably wait another minute or two to let them come in. And hopefully nobody is messaging me right now on ClassReach trying to get in, because I don't want to look at that without like shutting this whole thing down. Yeah, the weird thing about Zoom is that, like, you know, normally at an event like this, we'd be making small talk, but we can't like talk without talking to, well, 58 other people, which is kind of less intimate than the normal conversation. If anybody has a joke they want to share or anything, I'm open.
I'm a little curious about the Markovsky screensaver on Zoom.
How can I do something? It's Noah's fault. I don't know if they can hear me.
60. All right, so now's a good time to begin. So I'll open us up in prayer. And I guess just to let you know, this is my first time kind of running a presentation via Zoom, so hopefully it goes smooth. I can't see you all. I can see just a couple of you right now. So if there's like, if you want to get my attention, don't go like this because I won't see it. You know, send something in the chat is probably the best way to get my attention. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But for now, I'm going to open us up with prayer and then we're going to dive in. Yes. All right, Lord God, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your steadfast mercy. We thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you that we can rely on you always, no matter what we face. I thank you that you've been with us this year. Right, we're over halfway through, and I thank you that we can continue to rely on your goodness, your power, and your promises. Guide and direct our time. Help it to be productive, fruitful, to answer questions, to give people deeper understanding. And may this time bless our school. Amen. So when I was planning this event today, I had a really clear idea of what I wanted to look like and how I wanted it to go. But once again, right, because of Corona restrictions, I wasn't able to execute my plan. So let me give you an idea of how this day is going to go. We'll talk for about 30 to 40 minutes. We'll have lots of, then after that we'll have time for questions and answers. I know it can be hard and awkward. I'm not sure if I'm freezing up. So if I freeze up at any point, somebody please text me and let me know so I don't just keep going. It can be hard and awkward to ask a question to a group, of 70 plus people on Zoom. So to make this anonymous-ish, feel free to type your questions in the chat to me, and then I'll answer them at the end. And you can do that anytime they come up. I honestly don't even know how to, look at the chat right now with this display up. So if you prefer to say something to everyone else, you can just unmute yourself. If you would like to send a message to everybody, you're also welcome to do that. I offer anonymous questions just to encourage you all so that you ask the questions that are on your mind. So I want to start out this time together by thanking you all for your grace and your patience with us, and as me in particular. And I apologize if I seem distracted. I'm just trying to make sure I'm admitting people as they come in. There's a lot, as I look back on these past 7, 8, 9, or however long months this year has been, there's a lot of things I wish I would have said or handled better. And I appreciate you all time and again, benefit of the doubt, and being patient with me as we navigated some pretty tough waters. God's been really good to us this year. And I might try to mute you guys if there we go. If I hear noise coming from your phones too. Right, so I just want to take a minute just to publicly acknowledge all the good things that God has done for us this year. We're open. We're fully staffed. We've had pretty minimal illnesses. We've had minimal disruptions from quarantine this year. Right, this summer, I think a lot of us, myself included, were worried about how our young students were going to deal with masks. I think they have adjusted to masks better than most of us adults. Our kids are learning. They are developing friendships. We've seen a lot of character growth in a lot of our kids. And most of all, we've seen God guide us, protect us, and care for us this whole time. This is great. But as I say this, there's something I think we need to be on guard against. There's something within human nature, at least I'm pretty sure this is true, where we tend to fear after we get through something, after we overcome something that's been difficult. It's almost as if we think, or we're tempted to think, that our deliverance was accidental, that we've used up all of our luck. So ironically, instead of trusting God more after he delivers us, we fear and we doubt and we trust him less. So think about Elijah fleeing after he defeats the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. Think of David fleeing to the Philistines after God has delivered him more than once from Saul. So I think this is a thing we should be on guard against. I believe, I might not be right, but I believe we're through the worst of this virus, but that doesn't mean it's a time to become lax in our faith. No, I think we need to be vigilant against fear and doubt now more than ever, because these could push in against us. We have to continue on in faith. The future is unknown and things are out of control. This has always been the case. As hard as it's been, I think the fact that some of us have been awakened to this reality this last year is probably a good thing. The constant fact is that every breath we have is a gift from God. We didn't make ourselves, and we can't keep ourselves alive. God's made us, and he's saved us. He's bought us with his blood. We know we owe him everything, every waking moment, every ounce of energy. And so as Christians, we say, look, God, we want to follow you. But often what we mean by that is, I want to follow you, God, up to this point. Or I'll sacrifice for you as long as what you ask is reasonable of me. And I'll suffer trials if only I get to have a say in what they are. But as we've all learned this last year, we don't get to decide. None of us would have chosen this last year. A lot of us are very weary, but we're called to persevere. Think of Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and a peace for those who have been trained by it. As parents, we want to keep our kids safe. This is natural, this is normal, this is from God. But the fact is the world is full of Ivan Dragos. And I'm sorry, I guess some of our parents are probably too young to have seen Rocky IV, which is a shame. Keeping our children from all difficulty, removing all obstacles from their way, keeping them from natural consequences and so on, it's not going to prepare them to face difficulty. In fact, it will weaken and stunt their development. God doesn't call us to a life of ease, and he never promises to remove pain and sorrow from our lives. Lots of you know this better than I do. Life is often painful. It requires strength. Right? That's the tough news. But the good news is that God promises to be present with us always, right, to the very end of the age, and to provide that which he asks of us. I know that you're weary. I know that many of you are worried about what's going to come next. Right? It's kind of felt like Murphy's Law has been in place this whole year for us, not just our school, but right, our society. It's like, what else could go wrong? But I'd encourage you all to be strong. God has been faithful. He'll continue to be faithful. There we go. So, upcoming things. We're planning on having another Winter Fun Day next month. We had one of these last year. We'll have an option for sledding, right, assuming there's snow on the hills. Skating. The indoor rinks are actually closed right now because of indoor gathering limits. They have hockey practice, but right now they're not having public skating. So the public skating will be outside and skiing, and it's looking like we're going to be at Devil's Head again. They seem to offer the best deal. It's $25 for rentals, lessons, and for lift tickets. More details are going to be coming via a message later. I'm not going to talk about the spring fundraiser, fine arts. Katie, Mrs. Tuck's going to talk about that later. Yeah, and you can see last day of school, May 26th, graduation the 28th. Those are our big dates. A lot fewer dates on this calendar than normal, and that's because, well, Corona. Next year's calendar is out. It's posted on ClassReach. We don't know. We'll be meeting for sure next year. I'll talk a little bit about that more later. So there are some unknowns on the calendar, but it's pretty self-explanatory. The dates that we're confident about, we have. The ones that we're not sure, we just say this is a tentative date. So I'm not going to discuss or go through that now. If you have any questions, just follow up with me. Just send me a message. And some of us have already been in touch about the calendar and some of these dates. But this brings up a kind of a broader question of what do we expect next year to look like? Now, obviously, there's a lot that's outside of our control. But as a school, we're not anticipating operating under exceptional circumstances. This year, we've allowed a fluid movement of students in and out of classrooms. This has been absolutely necessary given the circumstances this year. But it's also been very challenging for our teachers. Right? I think this year you're going to see record numbers of teacher retirements, to be honest, and probably record numbers of pastoral retirements and a couple other really high pressure jobs. You're going to see a lot of retirements. And so this isn't like something we're planning on doing indefinitely. We're not at this point planning to continue any type of at-home option next year. Now, this is our intention, but we know that things may not be back to normal in August. I sure hope they are. I think a lot of us expect they are, but we don't know. And circumstances may require us to continue to make exceptions even next year. So at this time, we can't say anything definitive, but as we think about registration for next year, I do want you to know the direction that we intend to head in. All right. Oops. I just went back. I went forward too much. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Building search, right? Right now, we are seriously exploring. So I have my wife next to me, and she thinks this slide is funny. We are seriously exploring building an addition at Monona Oaks. This is an artistic rendering of what we have in mind. We've only had preliminary discussions with them, but at this point in time, they're open to it. Right? They've talked with their elders. They're planning on mentioning this to their congregation next month as well. So what we're doing right now is looking into zoning and legal requirements. We want to see what is possible, and yeah, I guess if it's possible, what's possible. This can take a couple months, but that's what we're actively working on now. In the meantime, we've had two other organizations reach out to us about partnering with them. Monona Oaks is our kind of our number one choice. We think that would be the best situation for us. but we're also pleased that others have been reaching out to us. They know we're looking and they're looking as well. And the possibility of partnerships with them are both very real possibilities. So I can't claim to know the future. All the things that we're exploring right now might completely, fall apart. Like, the year I thought I was going to choose between, right, 3 different dates for prom, and I ended up not going with anyone. Right, could be like that.
Right.
Brenda doesn't think that ever happened, but things seem very promising right now. Our goal is to be in our own place the fall of 2022. Right? So not this fall, but next fall. We're probably going to be at the Vine in Monona Oaks next year, just because they've been really great to work with. And they are giving us a very good rental rate. It's not to say we're not looking for other places or open to other things, but this is probably going to be our best bet. And I know it's been challenging for you driving back and forth. I mean, a lot of you guys see that there's a handful of kids that need to get into the Tuck Uber van every morning going back and forth, and it's been really difficult for our teachers to communicate. So this isn't a long-term solution, but I think it's probably our best bet for next year. Ultimately, we know that our plans mean nothing if they're made apart from God, right? Unless the Lord builds the house, those that build it labor in vain. So I'd ask you all to please join us in prayer for this. We're going to be sending home prayer postcards next week. With some specific requests, and we would ask that you would just stick these up on the, your refrigerator or someplace you're going to see it regularly, maybe your bathroom mirror, and just join us in regular prayer. And then we're going to give you 2 so you can share one with somebody that you think might want to join us in prayer. Okay, now I'm going to pass things off to Mrs. Nielsen right now.
All right, will you go forward, Monty? Thanks. So I'm super excited to announce that our timeline is ready, and I'll show you on this is like what it will look like. So we've got the timelines and all the timeline cards. I think I've emailed this before, but they just look like this. And then we have all the sound offs on the back. These were designed by Katie's sister, Emily Anderson. So she does a lot of our stuff and they're just gorgeous. They're really beautiful. And so we're going to make these available for purchase on our website. So the order form will be coming soon. We are going to sell them just because we're still learning how to do this and working with our printer. And so we're going to sell them all 3 as one set instead of doing like individual ancients, medieval, and modern. We're going to just sell them all together. Normally they'll be $150, but we're going to do a special because we'll do hopefully a big printing, which will lower our costs. And so we're going to do a special until February 1st. They'll all be $125 for the whole set. And so I hope you really like them. We'll get them for classrooms. And then again, we'll let you know via ClassReach when that order form is ready.
All right, I'm going to pass things off to Mrs. Tuck right now.
Okay. So here's a financial overview for the last several years, including a projected overview for this year's budget and income. So total tuition income this year will be $415,000, and we're budgeted to spend $440,000. As you know, it's been an unexpected year, but we're in better shape than we'd even hoped. So some things to keep in mind as we look at this: 100% of our budget comes from tuition. Now, a lot of nonprofits, including schools, don't do this. They budget just 80% and then assume to fundraise 20%. We prefer to be on the conservative side. So not only do we budget conservatively, but we project our expenditures conservatively. So keep that in mind. But we've also received several donations toward our general operating fund this year, which I'll detail on the next slide. So when we factor these donations in, we've more than covered our budget projection shortfall, which is awesome. So next slide, please. Okay, Here's our picture of our spending with payroll. Payroll is the largest percentage of our budget, as it should be. A few changes we've seen this year. As you know, it was a surprise and last minute scramble to find another location to meet. But the Vine and Monona Oaks and Red Village Church have been so generous to allow us to use their facilities and at a very low cost. So this percentage is just a very small percentage, and it's not been like that in the last several years. So we're so grateful for them. And we've tried to keep our supplies budget low, even with the necessary purchase of extra cleaning supplies, et cetera. But our school community has been so generous in donating TV trays, bringing hand sanitizer, Lysol, and more, which has really helped. So we are so grateful for you and for your generosity. Thank you so much. Incidentally, I'll just put a little plug in. I know Tiffany always appreciates this, and we always appreciate if you happen to see Lysol spray or wipes or paper towels or Kleenex or hand sanitizer on clearance. If you wouldn't mind grabbing one and dropping it off at school, we'd appreciate it. But we do really appreciate everybody's generosity this year. So next slide, please. Okay, here is a great slide, a picture of our giving. And this is since the beginning of our fiscal year, which starts July 1st of 2020. So some of you know that we received a very generous $50,000 grant from Caritas Foundation. $40,000 of that went to tuition assistance and $10,000 to general funds. And then we've had $25,000 in other donations of donations. So that's our year-end campaign and other general donations since that July 1st date. So again, our community has been so very generous. You'll see that we have $60,000 sitting in our building fund. And then because of that grant for tuition assistance, we have $42,000 in our tuition assistance fund right now. All right. Okay, so tuition assistance. So as you know, our hope is that the cost of tuition would not be a hindrance to any family wishing for their children to attend Caris. So to this end, we've created the tuition assistance program. And since 2013, I just did this math, we've awarded over $100,000 in tuition assistance, which I just thought was awesome. So next year is our 10th year. I feel like this is a huge thing, and I'm so grateful. A lot of that, most of that has come from our Caris community, our Caris families, which just says a lot about our community, so I was very encouraged to see that. I hope you are too. Last year, we were able to award over $15,000 to 7 families with 14 students. And then again, I just going over that large grant from the Caritas Foundation, $40,000 of that was for the tuition assistance fund. And so we hope to put, of course, we'll award a portion of that for this upcoming year, but we hope to put that other portion, we're not going to award the entire thing, of course, but we'll put a big chunk into, we hope, a high yield savings account or something of that nature, so we can build on this fund yearly as we can. So that's been our dream and our hope since the very beginning, but we've just been awarding more of what we have. So this year, since we get a little bit of a head start, we're very grateful for that. So we hope that we can just build on that fund. So if you're interested in applying for tuition assistance this year, the application is live. The link is live, which you can find on the Caris website under admissions in the tuition and fees section. The applications are due March 1st for the upcoming school year, and we should know within those first several weeks what people's awards are. So you'll hear within the first, well, I'll give us a month. Normally we do it by the silent auction, but things are a little different this year. So applications are due March 1st. Okay, next slide. Also, in the midst of this, feel free to ask questions or pop them into the group chat as well if you have any questions you want me to answer. Or you can save them for the end, whichever you prefer. So our spring fundraising event this year, obviously, we will sadly, not obviously, I guess, but we will sadly not be able to hold the Bard Cafe April 30th or hold the spring drama production on May 21st in consideration of possible COVID restrictions during that time. So you look at the calendar for this year, you probably assumed that something was going to change. However, we will be, Lord willing, holding an outdoor spring fundraiser at the end of May. So Jordan and Elizabeth Schultz have generously allowed us to use their outdoor venue, Goodley Farm, for the event. Several of you have seen their farm and gone to some flower pop-up shops that they've had. It just looks absolutely lovely. So we're so grateful for their generosity in providing this. So more information will be forthcoming, but we're looking at the last weeks of May, at the very end of school, to hold the event. There'll be food, drink, auction items, entertainment, possibly some students, possibly some parents. We're in planning right now, providing entertainment, I meant. And this will be a fundraiser for the building fund this year instead of the tuition assistance fund. The reason being is because obviously we're looking forward to a possible building, and then we had that wonderful generous grant, so we're able to know how much that we're able to award this year, which really helps us out and helps our families who are applying for tuition assistance to plan ahead. But also, I think this is just a great way to do that. So this year, our fundraiser monies will be going to the building fund. And so let us know if you have any fundraising, event planning, or entertaining gifts that you'd like to share with us. Just a few of us are meeting in the next month or so to start planning this event, but yeah, reach out if you'd like to help with it. So we'll give you more information as it comes. And so that's last for finances. Last last slide here. I'm going to transition a little bit to talk about pods this year. So the purpose of pods is to work in accordance with our mission to partner with and support Charis families. Several of our families have taken advantage of these and have generally been happy with how they've been going. It's been helpful for our families. This is how they're functioning this quarter and how they've functioned in the last few quarters. Our 2nd through 5th grades are meeting on Tuesday mornings. And this is to lessen the load on co-teachers for various reasons. Could be anything, or give more time for social interaction within a classroom setting. So we usually have one Charis teacher who is what we call the tutor for the pod, and we combine 2 grades, and we don't have any more than 6 students in each of those pods. So we're thinking that it would function as like a mini satellite classroom. So that's what our hope has been. But of course, our tutors are specialized Charis teachers. But as we think and dream ahead, even as we thought about the possibility of pods before we even launched them a few years ago, our hope would be that someday if a single parent family would like to join us and our model just isn't possible for them, but they're interested in a classical Christian education, we would love to eventually be able to provide a place for them to send their students so that we can partner with them, whether it be in pods, something that we've organized, or even partnering with another satellite classroom, one of our Charis families, and just drop them off. We know that a lot of that happened at the beginning of this year. We've done this. Our families have joined together for satellite classrooms in the past, which has been lovely. But just so you know, this to kind of put a little bug in your ear, this is kind of what we're hoping for and thinking and dreaming about, just to be able to offer that for our single parent families, or for single parent families who may want to join us. But the other dream we have, and we're starting to look into doing this more quickly, is for older students. You probably saw the Class Reach message that we're offering pods for older students now. So we're offering them from second through 12th grade. So they haven't, we don't have any 6th grade and up right now this quarter, but this is what we're kind of hoping for, that time would be maybe a study hall for those older students. But if there's enough interest, we could have some specialized help for math and science, humanities, something like that. And that would be our mornings. So if there's interest in that and we can staff it, we would love to provide that for our older students, a little bit more specialized help there. I wouldn't call it tutoring because it's not necessarily one-on-one, but just specialized help if you want a little bit more help with a Charis teacher. That's what we'd love for our older students, for our logic and rhetoric classes. Now, the thing that what we are thinking about is a possible full day for our older classes, our 6th and up. So maybe a morning time, just a quick little class about executive functions, training like time management, note-taking skills, things like that. things that we all need refreshers on all the time, but would really help our logic and rhetoric students. And then a study at hall, like we said, with that specialized help in math and science. But then afternoons, maybe we could make that, if we have interest in this and staffing, we could add an afternoon. Of course, that would raise costs a little bit, but we could call that electives, and we could have chess, drama, running club, things like that. So again, these are the things we're thinking towards. It's not put into place yet, except for that morning time. If you are interested in sending your older students for mornings, even though we've already started the quarter, do reach out, because it would be great to know interest. And if we have, 5 or 6 students who are older and interested in coming for study hall and maybe some more specialized help in one of those classes like math or science or humanities, let us know, because several of our teachers have reached out and said they would be glad to come in and help with that. Even organization, like we talked about, those executive functions, help, pop in for a day, and they would help our students with some of the specialized things that each student needs help with individually. So anyways, do reach out if you're interested, please. Yeah, so I think that's it for me.
On to Mr. Hoffman.
All right, good morning. Now, as we've talked about, this has been a completely normal year with no changes at all, no difficulties in adjusting. So we decided it's a good year to completely change everything about our registration process. Right? I guess Monty's frantically texting me that that's not right. I said that backwards. We're not changing anything at all. The registration process is going to be exactly the same as in previous years. As you can see on this first slide, tuition as well is just going to stay the same. We recognize that this has been a difficult year for many people, that you've had many challenges. And so there was a tuition freeze for next year that rates won't increase at all. You can see these again on our website. If you go to our website and you look under admissions, and then there's a tuition and fees tab, you can see the rates there, but they'll be the same as this previous year. All right, if you go to the next slide, please. All right, here are the registration dates. So today, after the state of the school is finished, I'll be enabling the ClassReach forms. So you can begin registering today, your returning students. Registration will end on February 15th. And so what that means is that if you register in this first month for your returning students, your place is reserved. We'll make sure that if they were a student at Karis this year, they will have a spot in a classroom for next year. The registration fee for this returning student registration period is $125, as you can see there. That's per student, and then that's only returning students. Beginning February 15th, any new families or new students will be able to register for Karis classes. And if returning students have not registered by that point, their spot will not necessarily be reserved. So potentially in classes that are more full, particularly, I guess it doesn't really apply to kindergarten, but we're looking at kindergarten being very full this year. Most of the other ones, I believe there's some leeway, but that's something to keep in mind, that your enrollment position will not be reserved if you miss the returning family registration period. Make sure for returning students, you register for that first period. New students can register February 15th to April 30th. The fee there is $200. Then late registration, this would be the other ones to key in on for those returning families. Late registration period begins May 1st and will extend to July 1st, at which time registration will be cut off and closed completely. And the fee is $400. We like to encourage you to register early if you are reasonably sure in your intent to return to Karis. Please register as early as possible. That helps us so much with planning for classrooms, planning for teachers, any supplies, getting documents distributed. And so it helps us quite a bit if the earlier you can register. Okay, so I think I covered everything there. If you would go, I guess there is one more slide. All right, so the process. As I mentioned, this will be the same as previous years. There will be 2 forms to complete on ClassReach, and then the registration fee to pay. So you'll see a core tuition and fees form on ClassReach. That's filled out per family. This lets you reaffirm that you've updated information on ClassReach, lets you select the method you'd like to use for paying for tuition, which schedule you'll use, and how many students you'll be registering and things like that. There's a student registration form. This is filled out per student, and this lets us see which students you're registering for which grades, and it lets us calculate that. So that is per student. You'll be able to select the student name and then select which grade they'll be entering for the 2021-2022 school year. You can pay your registration fee. There is a PayPal link available on the website. Again, I believe this is on the admissions and then the tuition and fees subpage. You can pay by PayPal if you would like. However, check is still our preferred method of paying those registration fees. So you can mail those to our PO box, drop them off at the school. Either of those will work great. And then if needed, as a reminder, if you are seeking financial aid, please make sure to register for FACTS by March 1st. Again, you can find that link on our website under the same page I've been referencing. Should be admission and then tuition and fees. So if you're looking for financial aid, please make sure you fill out that application. If you don't already have a FACTS account, please create one. This helps us get input from an independent party in trying to gauge how much aid we should distribute to each family. So please make sure to remember that application by March 1st. I believe there might have been some questions about book rental fees, particularly for the older students, 7th through 12th grade. So this year, we actually made a little bit of a change for the 2020-2021 school year, in that instead of giving the individual rental prices for each textbook, we've just lumped that together into a single fee. So that's $100, and that's covering their math book, which for a, let's see, kind of as we're thinking about it, for a few years rental, as we're planning to make sure we can recoup the costs. The math book is generally about a $20 rental. Science book is about $25. The science fee for lab supplies, things like that, $10. That's covering their history, large history textbook, which is $20. And then this year, we also started printing a quite large packet of additional excerpts and sources, running about 150, maybe up to 300 pages. So quite a substantial packet per student that's will need to be reprinted essentially each year. And so combining those 3 textbooks, that packet, that fee, we've come to a fee of $100, and that covers those different supplies. So that's a bit of a change. Instead of seeing it broken out, I'd be happy to send you a detailed breakdown if you wanted to see that, but that's why we've combined those fees for this year. Okay, I believe that covers everything for registration. Documents are going to be posted shortly onto ClassReach if they are not already, things like the calendar. Book lists will take maybe another month or two, although since we have gone through all 12 grades, that should be a little bit faster than it was last year. And we're settling into some of the choices there. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Nielsen, for your hard work on those timeline cards, right? For those of you that are newer to the school, you don't realize this is something we've been working on for years. And thank you, Mrs. Tuck, for your just diligent work on our budget. And thank you, Mr. Hoffman, for sharing all that information about registration for next year. All right, so right now I'm going to close just by kind of covering a couple smaller issues and challenges we might be facing and things we can be praying about. So staffing, first just continue to pray God would provide the right people so that we're able to continue to serve you all to the best of our ability. We are not anticipating a lot of turnover in our staff this year. Most of our staff is planning to return, and most that took this year off are also planning to return. This is just a huge blessing. We really do have an exceptionally talented staff. All of them are working for below their market value. And because they work, for below their market value, a lot of times it's very difficult to retain good staff members at Christian schools. I'm very thankful that we have the staff that we have and that we're able to retain them. Next, enrollment. So this year's looked a lot different than last year. Last year, over half our new families applied in the fall. This year, right, all the way through December, we only had one family apply. Because of the corona restrictions, we're not allowed to do monthly tours. And this is our main way of recruiting new families. So as a result, interest has been down in a lot of grades. Now, the big exception to this is our kindergarten class. Right now, we're looking at 25 for potential kindergarten students, which is bigger than our maximum. So instead of having an oversized class or starting a waiting list, our idea right now is to have 2 smaller kindergarten classes taught by Mrs. Stapleton and Mrs. Joswick. In terms of interest in our other grades, things are starting to return to normal. There's been an uptick this last month in interest of our school. Yeah, just a lot more people calling up, asking questions, even a number of people that have recently applied without asking any questions or coming in to take a tour. So right now we have 9 new families that have applied and been accepted to the school, and 5 more that we're in the application process right now. So potentially 14 new families, and it's still relatively early. The primary challenge we're going to be facing is that a lot of kids, and I mean a lot of kids fell behind this last year and a half. A lot of kids, right, come August 2021 are going to be a year to a year and a half behind. Full stop. They lost over a year of education. This isn't an exaggeration. Our students are not a year to a year and a half behind. That means a lot of students, especially older students, may be looking at repeating a grade if they come into our school. And this can be a hard sell for parents. So this means that it may be a couple years till we get back on our trajectory. I mean, we were looking at maybe last year at this time, we were thinking that by the fall of 2021, we were going to have somewhere around, I don't know, 100, 190 students. We're probably not going to be there for a couple of years. But that being said, I've been really encouraged by our enrollment growth, especially recently. There's been a lot of good interest. But wherever we end up, that's okay. You know, my goal is not to grow the school to a certain size, and our success as a school is not defined by how many students enroll. God in His providence is going to bring people in and out of our community. Our goal, our calling as a school, is to serve those that He brings here to the best of our ability. So please pray that God brings in families that we can partner with and serve well. Building, I already talked about that. I mean, the short of it is our long-term, sorry, I'm trying to admit people right now. Our long-term flourishing requires a single campus with space for us all. This has been something we've been looking into for years, and it's turned out to be a bigger problem, or I shouldn't say bigger problem, a greater challenge than we expected. But right now it seems like God is in the process of opening some doors. So I'd ask you just continue to pray for prudence as we navigate a number of tough decisions, and pray that God will provide, and that we're going to have the discernment to recognize when He does provide, even if it's not what we had in mind. Lastly, continue to be on guard and just pray against complacency as things return to normal. And I talked about this a little bit at the beginning. It's just easy to become complacent. This year, we've really had to rely on God. And when things get better, it's easy to fall into the illusion that we ourselves have what it takes to succeed all on our own. If you read the book of Judges, you can see how God uses difficult situations to bring His people to Himself, and how times of comfort and safety often lead to backsliding and idolatry. And I do hope and think that we're going to be entering a time of greater stability and blessing. And when we get to that place, the biggest thing we need to be vigilant against is just any type of self-sufficient complacency. Whether it's a good time or a bad time, it's God that's going to sustain us. And so continue to keep us all in your prayers, that we would rely fully on God. Okay, so I'm going to start answering questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. You can type them to everyone, or you can type them just directly to me or to Mr. Hoffman or Mrs. Tuck or somebody if you have specific questions about what they talked about. And I'm just going to start answering some of these questions I've already got. And all right. So in terms of next year, I understand that I was I was not, sorry, I'm trying to read through all these too. My audio was breaking up a little bit about where we're going to be at next year. So the plan right now is to be at Monona Oaks and the Vine next year. That's not for sure. We're certainly open to a single location if we can find it. But the short of it is the Vine and Monona Oaks churches have been just excellent partners to work with. They're giving us really good prices, which is helping us to keep our budget under control. This year when our enrollment was, I don't know, 40 students less than we anticipated. And as we're wanting to start a building campaign, keeping our costs down is going to be real helpful because we'll be able to potentially save more as well. I know it's very difficult to drive back and forth between these campuses, and I appreciate your just willingness and flexibility. There's a number of parents that help us get kids back and forth. But yeah, that's the plan for next year. If somebody happens to know a facility that would love to host all of us and can accommodate that, please let me know, because I'm also open to other ideas. Okay, I had another question. The question was, when we talk about a long-term solution, or we talk about our own place, are we talking about renting or buying? And the answer is, well, either. I mean, we'd prefer to buy, we'd prefer to be property owners, but if we could find a place where we could sign a long-term lease, right? 5-year, maybe even a 10-year lease, and that building could house us all, we would be very open to that as well. Okay, so you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit as I try to read through these. Okay, so if you're a returning family and you have a new student, that was a little unclear. I see this like showed up like 6 different times. You would register with the first round. So like, let's say you are, oh, I don't want to pick anybody, right? Let's say you have a 2nd grader and a 1st grader and you want your kindergarten here next year. You can register them today. You don't need to wait till February 15th to register your incoming kindergarten next year. I think the only difference is that it's a reduced rate for returning students, but that reduced rate is not for new students, right? So a new kindergartner will cost $200, whereas your returning 4th grader or whatever will only be $125. If I'm not understanding that correctly, feel free, somebody, to correct me, but I believe that's the case. Oh, yep, okay. Oh boy. Okay, I'm
Monty, while you're
yes, thank you.
can I clarify the timeline?
Please do.
You look through questions and I'll clarify the timeline stuff because I've gotten a couple questions that I've noticed. So cards and the timelines come laminated. They come like this. Okay. You will be getting these little stickers included. We're not going to put them all on for you, but they're super easy. I did the whole thing myself in like 10 minutes. And so the clear ones go on the timeline wall. You can't really see, but there's little dots that they go onto. And then there's dots on the back of the cards, and you just stick the Velcro pieces on, and then you can just stick them back on the timeline. So that all comes with that cost. And then, so each grade will still be learning the colors are for the grades. And so you can see like 1st graders will learn the dark ones, 2nd graders will learn those, but it is nice for every grade, and they'll be repeated in like 7th through 12th, right? So everyone still has those same sound offs. It's just when you learn those sound offs. But again, I want kind of all of our students to review the events and what they've already learned for their sound offs. So hopefully they can keep doing that. So by the time they're repeating the cycle in 7th grade, they really already have them down, and it is just review. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
The cards are not required for you to get, though.
That's good. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, you know, yeah. So again, if something we're saying doesn't make sense, just follow up with another message. Because it's always weird, like, anybody that's spoken in public knows that it's like this give and take. You probably change 50% of what you're going to say on the spot because you're reading reactions, you're seeing people. And when you see like a blank muted screen with somebody's name, it's really hard to know like what's connected and not. So just follow up with those questions. You just got to kind of be proactive. And I apologize. Some of these questions I think were answered within the chat, but I know that not all of you are probably reading the chat, so I'll try to go through them. So the question was, what time of the day is graduation? And yeah, we essentially don't know yet. We haven't determined that. A lot of this we're just kind of pushing back because we don't know what requirements are going to be in May. I expect them to be significantly different than they are now. The county has been making significant changes and updates. So we'll just wait and see. I mean, already you can have 50 people outdoors for a gathering. Not that I'd want to go to a gathering in the middle of January, but that's already possible. And so outdoor numbers are probably going to be higher as well as indoors. And we have to see what potential host sites are comfortable with as well. And it's as my conscience that's just over my left shoulder and out of view says, it's a big deal, right? It's my wife, because it's our first graduating class, so we want to take our time and make sure we do this really well. Okay. Can I send my registration check? This is the question, for my children in an envelope in a folder rather than sending it through the mail? The answer is yes. Who do I notify? Just be in touch with Tiffany, right? Send a message to the front desk. Hey, I'm sending this in today with one of my kids. They can either put it in their communication folder. They can have it. I guess if you put it in your communication folder to let the classroom teacher know as well, you can drop it off during pickup or, drop off too. Okay. So we have a question about our scripts. I'll start with this and then I'll say, I guess maybe Mrs. Joswick or Mrs. Tuck, if you want to add to what I say, you can add to it. But scripts is, I guess in short, it's a way of buying discounted gift cards to raise money and support for the school. So, like how this works is, let's say you buy a gift card to Target for $100. They'll sell that gift card to us for, let's say, $95, right? It has a $100 value. We buy it for $95, and then you buy it for us for $100, and that $5 difference goes to the school, right? And so you're getting your exact value, right? If it's a $100 gift card, you're spending $100, getting a $100 gift card. You're not losing anything, but there's a certain percentage, right? And it's going to depend on the company. Sometimes it's 1% or 2% for like a gas card. For something like Kohl's, it might be 15%, right? It might be a much greater percentage. So it's just an easy way for you to support the school in your normal purchases and your normal day-to-day life without any extra cost to yourself. It's just like the Amazon Smile, right? If you order something through Amazon Smile, you're not paying any more for the items you're buying via Amazon, but the school is getting 0.5%, I believe, of the total cost. And this makes sense, right? Again, think about for the business. If you're a business, people buy gift cards from you. They're going to shop at your place. You're not going to like buy gift cards for Chipotle and then go out to Qdoba. You're going to stay at their place. And so it allows them to help us as a school, but it also allows them to get business. So it's hopefully win-win. Does anybody want to add to that? Feel free, either Tia or Katie. If that's sufficient, I'll just let it be.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can direct it to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about script. But half of the rebate that you earn goes toward the school to use however they want to use it, but the school is generously giving half of that rebate back to you to use toward books or tuition fees or any other school-related fees. So if you need to know how much rebate is in your account, especially with registration fees coming up, or tuition and other school-related fees that are coming up in this semester, you can just send me a message, and Katie Tuck as well, and then she can check to see when you last used your rebate, and then I can let you know how much is in your rebate account. So that way you know how much you can apply toward registration or tuition.
I would just add too that we did start to have them expire after a year. So script rebates, just because it was getting a little hard to keep track of everybody's script that adds up over the years, and then it's hard for administratively us to budget and things like that. So just so you know, yes, you do get half of that, but it does expire after about a year. So, and somebody asked how we actually use our saved amount. I'm not sure if that meant like how the school uses it, but it goes into our general fund. So it's just the greatest need for us, if that's what you're asking, how the school uses that amount. But if it's for you individually, like Mr. Knutter said, you can use it towards books, you can use it towards t-shirts, registration, even, whatever you would pay us for, you can use it for.
I was gonna just say, as far as script, I was intimidated by it for a while, but now they have made it so easy. The reloadable gift cards are amazing. That's how, like, my husband just bought gas at Quick Trip the other day, and he's like, "Hey, my balance is down to $2. I just went on my phone, reloaded another, how much of the budget we have for gas every month, and I just put it on there, and then I know that the school gets some of that, and we get some of that, and I've used it towards pods, like our kid, Mia's in pods, so we've used it for that. I've used it for, like you said, registration. So it's really, once you get used to it, it's actually really awesome. So just easy way.
And I like it because it's the allowance I get each month.
Oh, shush.
It's his allowance.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, like it's great. I mean, like there's a lot of advantages that I've seen other people have from it. Like it allows you to like save up over time for big projects, right? Like, look, I want to, and I'm going to be doing some homework, so I'm going to buy $1,000 gift card to Menards or something like that, right? I'll set money aside and then boom, buy the whole thing. Or gifts for families, or have families buy it. Like I've known some families at other schools that have, like literally made thousands of dollars for themselves in their school by just changing the way they buy things, not buying anything more, but just buying things in a really, intentional way. So, but it takes a lot of planning, which is why a lot of us don't do it, because you actually have to think, like you can't go out and buy $500 of cards and then like buy $500 of groceries. Most of us can't do that. We don't have that double money, so you need to kind of think and plan ahead. Okay. Are CARES families eligible to apply for transportation reimbursement through the Madison Metropolitan School District? We're in the process on our end of working to get approval for that from them. I don't know, Mr. Hoffman, if you have any updates, you can jump in here. But yeah.
I mean, it's just communication with school districts has been sporadic, so you kind of have to keep asking them to try and get the information that you need. So last communication I had with them was there are some documents that the school needs to fill out at the end of the school year in order to apply for reimbursement. So I'm just still following up with them, trying to figure out what and when that happens. And then we need to do that with each school district that we have students attending from. We have to figure out how to get the 2 locations identified and marked so that you can use it for both of them. So we're just still working on that, trying to figure out exactly what is required of us.
Yeah. A couple of you had brought this up last year, and so we were, somewhat along in the process with Door Creek Church, and then we moved locations, then everything switches. So like Sun Prairie District, for example, offers a reimbursement for Door Creek, but it doesn't for Monona Oaks or the Vine, because there's a number of state laws governing how far your school has to be away from the border of the district. And there's different rules about like how different are we from other places. Like there was some controversy, like, are we offering something different than like Abundant Life or High Point? We're both Christian schools. We both serve Protestants. Wait, what does that look like? So there's, with anything with the government, there's just a lot of bureaucracy, but this is something we've looked into, and hopefully we'll have something for next year. But honestly, it's just amazing how convoluted these processes can be sometime. Okay, I think Kim answered questions about the timeline. One of you guys had a question of just about locations. I understand you don't have students at both places, but yes, Monona Oaks is where K-4 meets, and the Vine is where grades 5 through 12 meet. Okay. Yeah, okay, so somebody has a great question. Any sense of what Fridays will look like for K-4 next year at this time? Boy, I don't know if I've got it quite figured out for this year yet, I'll be honest. That's kind of a joke. That's been really hard to figure out. It's going to look similar, right? The times are going to be 8:45 through 12 again. It's going to be more focused on fine arts. In terms of exactly what we're going to be offering, that's going to depend a little bit on our staff. These Fridays have always varied a little bit depending on who's available, what they're available for. We're hoping to continue to offer music and art, PE, joyful discovery. Some of that might get shifted into our Mondays and Wednesdays, and some of it might get shifted to Fridays, just depending on teacher availability. That's the really short, not incredibly helpful answer. But same dates. We're hoping we'll be able to offer it just at Monona Oaks, and we won't have to bounce around in the middle of the year. But I don't know. That's going to come down to our discussions with the zoning board and regulations in Monona. All right. And again, if I'm not fully answering any of these, just put another question back in there and I'll come back to it. So again, graduation. Last day of school is that Wednesday. That's going to have our end of the year program. I'm not sure why graduation isn't on the current calendar, but that will be that Friday. So I think it's what, the 27th, I want to say off the top of my head. And it's a tentative date. Okay. We actually have. Okay. Okay, lots of good questions in here. I'm just getting to. Okay. No idea. I apologize that I'm reading and talking out loud. I wish I had something intelligent to say, but I can't while I'm reading. No idea expired.
I'll fill again because I also on the slide, I put that we're just running the special through February 1st. I did it last night, so I'm sorry. It should be March 1st with the timeline cards. I just botched the whole announcement, so sorry about that. But it should be the special will run until March 1st.
Excellent. Good. So good question. Any idea if running club drama will potentially happen next year? I would say yes and yes to both of those. That would be our expectation. With all of our clubs, there's a couple different factors at work. One is availability of location. And so as long as we're flexible, we can usually work with at least one of our, I assume we'll be able to work with one of our partner locations. Availability of either a teacher or a parent volunteer to do this because I guess we need somebody to staff it, and then interest for students. So if there's interest for students and we have either a parent or a teacher that's willing to staff, the answer is yes to both of them. And I would say the answer is yes to even more than them. We've had some discussions. Chess club has come up a couple times from a couple different families. We're exploring that. I would say this, especially with the two locations and the COVID kind of changes, and with the kicking up to look for a building, I'd say our administration is stretched a little thinner than we've been at the past. And so if something's going to if a new project is going to require a lot of work at the top end, that's probably not happening this next year. But so if it's like a parent, like, I'd love to do this, what are you going to do, Mr. Knetter? The answer is probably going to be not a lot. If the question is, I'd love to do this, how can I help out? The answer is going to be, I'd love to help you. Let's make this happen. This is great. I love your idea. So again, a lot of it's just going to come down to initiation and interest among our families. And that's honestly, that's probably the model we're going to have long term. I don't, and this is really getting broad. So hopefully, I don't know. We'll see if my wife pokes me and tells me I'm going on too much. But I mean, I think a healthy school is one in which there's kind of grassroots involvement, grassroots initiative. We're a community, we're coming together, and the couple people at the top, they facilitate that happening. I don't think we're going to do very well in our flourishing long-term at the school if it's me and Kim and Austin and Katie coming up with ideas and then trying to staff and run them and make them happen. It just burns us out. We're a small school. We just don't have the staff and resources to run those things well from the top down. And so my approach, and I think our approach generally is going to be like, if you are interested in this and you want to make this happen, we will, give you 110% of our time to help you and assist you. But if it's something, right, that's going to require a lot of us, we just don't have the ability to do it as great as the idea is. Okay. Different color. Okay, so calendar. I'm sorry, I'm probably way behind for the new things. Code. Okay. Hi, Aubrey. Also Aubrey. Hi, Mrs. Stapleton. Oh, I don't get this. Okay, I apologize. I'm scrolling down and then I'll like all of a sudden lose like 20 spots. Oh my goodness, I hate this. Okay, so I'm reset from the top. Gift card balances. Okay. Why the heck is it doing that? Have I got through all the questions? Is that why I keep getting reset? Okay. Okay, was there any other questions? I think I'm caught up. It said just a second ago I had 28 and then I scrolled down and now I have 0. Anybody? Type it in if I didn't answer your question in the next 30 seconds. Okay, I'm really sorry about, again, it's just a lot easier to just be like, hey, you right, and ask a question. I know it's a little more difficult here to kind of wade through the noise, but appreciate your patience. All right, final chance. Okay, if I don't see anything, then I'm just gonna close us. I've recorded this, so it's there if you wanna watch this again. I don't know why you would, but if you want to, if you missed something, you can watch it, or if you came in, you want to hear something, if questions come up, just send me a message. Like, this isn't like, this is your one chance to ask questions about next year. Just send me a message, and if it's pertinent, or if oh right, okay, I do see one thing. If it's something that applies to the school more broadly, I will try to answer the question, the question more broadly. If it's something just individual, I'll just answer it individual. We have one thing. I just got one message. Mr. Huffman is one last announcement, it looks like.
Yeah, one last announcement. So, I mean, some of you may have commented or thought, or maybe you've said this before, right? You want to give the education to your children that you wish you had, and it can feel like the opportunities passed you by, but there's still kind of that hope that your children will go further than you, and this sort of thing. We also talk about how we want to give our children a lifelong desire for a lifelong pursuit of learning, but then sometimes we aren't sure how to carry that out ourselves. It can seem really overwhelming to try and grab the humanities book list and dive into Plato's Republic on your own, or even getting into some of C.S. Lewis's nonfiction, right? Even a writer who's closer to our own age. And so one thing we'd like to do beginning next month, and potentially this will grow and expand, perhaps if there's interest, is to try and offer parents education courses in both particular books. So again, for example, reading through something by Sophocles or Plato or Dante, but also in some of those other skill type of courses that the students are taking. So for example, maybe a logic class, right? Your students taking formal logic and they start talking in symbols back to you or something like that. I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, executive skills, all these sorts of things to try and also give you tools, both for your personal life, but also to help your students. Because again, something we're trying to communicate to our students is that this isn't something that you just pass to get a grade or to get a job, but this is something that can help you in your life, both your walk with Christ, but also how to deal with all of these problems that come up day to day. I thought about with the class actually yesterday, trying to mark every time there was a conscious decision I had to make, but then I completely gave up that idea because I would be turned around the whole time making tally marks on the board. And that's kind of how our life is. And these things can help us make wise decisions. So what we'd like to start off with, probably beginning either mid to late February, would be an Abolition of Man class. This is a book by C.S. Lewis, one of the last books that was published during his life. It would be 3 weeks. We would meet via Zoom, given current coronavirus restrictions and that sort of thing. The exact schedule is to be determined. Some of that will depend on interest, and we'll try and work around parent schedules, but it would likely be in an evening, run for 3 weeks. The book is very short. And so if you are interested in something like that for this initial study, or even if you just say, this is a great idea, I'm not sure I'll go on this first one, but maybe later, if you just send me a class reach message, I'll try and keep kind of a tally list. I'll try and work out a time that we can schedule, and then I'll send more information to everyone. So even if you didn't initially send something in, you'll still know it's available. So yeah, this is something we'd like to do, and Lord willing, it will grow, and perhaps we'd be able to offer more things as a school.
Yeah, excellent. That's very, very exciting.
Yeah, one
super
question
thankful.
for parents. But I mean, of course, if students want to sit in too, that's absolutely fine as well.
It's good. Yeah, and this is just a great way, you know, to model to our kids. Honestly, like we can tell our kids, for example, like learning is lifelong, but if we don't show value, they're going to do what they see us do, not what they hear us say. You know, we can say like reading is important, right? One of the best things you can do, honestly, sometimes if you want your kids to be readers, is to be like, don't bother me right now. I'm going to take some time to read. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. You're like, no, my kids need me. They ask, right? Well, if they actually need you, sure. But a lot of times, like what they need is just to play or read on their own, and you modeling like, this is something I value, so that they see you, because they're going to do what they see you do ultimately. So this is a great opportunity for you parents. And yeah, really short book, not an easy book, but when you have a teacher like Mr. Hoffman on staff, he can make it understandable for us. And it's, I mean, if you've read anything by C.S. Lewis, this is his most scholarly work. I don't want to say it's his most important, but it's a very important work. It's very relevant. It's a really good work. If you haven't read it, or even if you haven't, you didn't understand everything, I'd encourage you to do it. Teachers, parents, you're all invited. Okay. Thank you all, right, for taking the time to join us today. Again, I apologize if you can ask Mrs. Betts at some point. I constantly like talk to myself and mutter, and I'm sure my microphone picked up like half of that today. And so I do apologize. You wouldn't hear me when I was on the podium, but here you probably did. So thanks for your patience with this format. Lord willing, next time we get together, it's going to be in person, and we'll be able to see each other's big smiles and everything else. I'm going to close this in prayer and then let you guys go. Father, we thank you that you are with us always to the end of the age. Help us to love one another, right, as Christ has loved us. Bless these parents on their 3/4 of the day off from school. Bless these families. Help this week full to be restful. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Don't do that.